Right, Zorp, pay attention. This mission is of utmost importance. The Supreme Commander's voice, amplified by the comms device in Zorp's ear, crackled with static, making the already tense atmosphere even more nerve-wracking. Earth, utterly unremarkable in many ways, except for their peculiar obsession with reality TV and a beverage they called tea. This planet, teeming with life, seemed to revolve around these two oddities. Your mission, the commander continued, should you choose to accept it, is to infiltrate their top-secret facility, Area 52, I believe it's called, and retrieve the recipe for this tea. Zorp suppressed a sigh, feeling the weight of the absurdity of the task. Of all the crucial intelligence to gather, they were fixated on tea? Zorp couldn't help but wonder why this beverage held such significance to the Supreme Commander. Supremely important, I presume? She deadpanned. The commander harumphed, clearly not amused by Zorp's lack of enthusiasm. Just get the recipe, Zorp. The command was clear, leaving no room for further questions or doubts, and try not to get caught. The stakes were high and failure was not an option. Zorp knew that the success of this mission could determine the future of their species' understanding of Earth and its peculiar customs. As Zorp reviewed the mission details, the complexity of the task became apparent. Infiltrating Area 52 was no small feat. The facility was known for its impenetrable security and countless secrets. Zorp would need to blend in with the humans, using advanced disguise technology to avoid detection. Every move had to be calculated, every step precise. She spent hours practicing human mannerisms, studying their behavior, and preparing for the mission. The success of this operation depended on her ability to seamlessly integrate into human society. Finally, the day of the mission arrived. Zorp entered Area 52, navigating through high-tech security systems and avoiding detection at every turn. The tension was palpable, but she remained focused. After what felt like an eternity, Zorp located the recipe for tea in a futuristic lab. She quickly retrieved the data, knowing that every second counted. With the recipe in hand, Zorp made her escape, evading security and returning to her spaceship. The mission was a success, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. Back at the command center, Zorp presented the tea recipe to the Supreme Commander. The commander examined the data, a look of satisfaction crossing his face. Zorp felt a wave of relief wash over her. The mission was complete, and she had proven herself capable. As she reflected on the events, she couldn't help but wonder what the next improbable mission would be. Earth's atmosphere, as always, did not disappoint. It smelled vaguely of burnt toast and desperation. Still, Zorp had to admit the planet had a certain chaotic charm. She'd chosen the guise of a human teenager, rebellious, tech-savvy, and with a wardrobe that screamed, "Don't mess with me." Plus, blending in meant embracing the local fashion disasters. Her destination, Nevada, USA, home of Area 52 and, allegedly, the best darned alien conspiracy theories the universe had to offer. Espionage, Zorp had learned, was mostly about waiting for security patrols to change, waiting for systems to go offline, waiting for the kettle to boil. She'd managed to breach Area 52's perimeter with surprisingly little effort. Humans, it seemed, were easily distracted by shiny objects and cat videos. Now she was in. Well, almost. The actual recipe, according to intel, was locked in a high-security vault, guarded by lasers, motion sensors, and probably a disgruntled intern on a caffeine high. "Right, let's see what we have here," Zorp muttered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface of her wristwatch. Just as she thought she'd bypassed the last firewall, a voice boomed from behind her. Well, what do we have here? A teenager who's lost her way? Or perhaps—" The guard leaned closer, his eyes narrowing, something a bit more extraterrestrial. Zorp cursed under her breath. So much for human incompetence. She'd been made. Section 5. Outfoxed, not outdone. In a world where technology and security have reached unprecedented heights, Zorp found herself in a precarious situation. The high-tech security facility was known for its impenetrable defenses, but Zorp was not one to be easily deterred. Thinking fast, Zorp feigned innocence. Her mind raced as she calculated her next move. She knew that any sign of hesitation could blow her cover. "Extraterrestrial, is that a new band?" she asked, her voice laced with genuine curiosity. She had to keep the guard off balance, and what better way than to play the part of an uninformed civilian? "I must check them out. I love heavy metal!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up with feigned excitement. Music was a universal language, and she hoped it would be enough to distract the guard. She flashed the guard a winning smile, one that could disarm even the most vigilant of sentinels. Her charm was her greatest weapon, and she wielded it with precision. The guard, to her surprise, seemed taken aback. He wasn't used to such enthusiasm, especially in a place as serious as this. His stern expression softened, if only for a moment. "Heavy metal, you youngsters and your music. Back in my day," he began, his voice trailing off as he was transported back to a simpler time. The guard's eyes glazed over as he reminisced about the past. He launched into a rambling anecdote about Elvis and the good old days. Zorp listened intently, nodding at the right moments, all the while her mind was focused on her mission. Zorp used the distraction to her advantage, subtly activating the smoke bomb concealed in her sleeve. Her fingers moved with practiced ease, pressing the hidden button that would set her plan into motion. "Look, a distraction!" she cried, pointing dramatically to the now billowing smoke. The room filled with thick, swirling clouds, obscuring everything in sight. By the time the smoke cleared, Zorp was gone, leaving the bewildered guard to ponder the fleeting nature of youth and the questionable taste in music. He stood there, coughing slightly, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The facility's alarms blared, but it was too late. Zorp had outfoxed them all, proving once again that she was not to be underestimated. Outside, Zorp blended seamlessly into the bustling cityscape. The neon lights reflected off her sleek attire as she disappeared into the night. She had pulled off another daring escape, and the thrill of it all made her heart race. She knew that this was just one of many challenges she would face, but she was ready for whatever came next. After all, she was Zorp, and she was always one step ahead. With a final glance back at the facility, Zorp allowed herself a small, satisfied smirk. She had outfoxed them, but she was far from done. The game was just beginning, and she was ready to play. Section 6. The Interrogation Tango. Despite her best efforts, Zorp found herself cornered. The element of surprise was gone, and she was outnumbered and outgunned. So the woman across the interrogation table began, her voice sharp as a tack. "Care to tell me why you're so interested in our tea?" "Tea?" Zorp countered, feigning ignorance. "I'm more of a coffee person myself. Bitterness with a hint of existential dread. That's my motto." The woman didn't crack a smile. "Don't play coy with me. We know you're not from around here." Section 7. Confinement Conundrums. They tossed her in a cell, a stark white cube with nothing but a cot and a toilet that looked like it had last been cleaned during the Jurassic era. "Charming," Zorp muttered, taking in the ambience. "I've had picnics in more hospitable black holes." But Zorp was not one to despair. She had faced worse odds and emerged victorious, or at least with all her limbs intact. This was merely a temporary setback, a puzzle to solve, a game of wits against her captors, and she, Zorp, did love a good challenge. The cell was designed to break the spirit of its inhabitants, but Zorp was made of sterner stuff. She had been through the ringer before, and each time she had come out stronger. Memories of past battles flashed through her mind. She had fought in the trenches of the Nebula Wars, navigated the treacherous asteroid fields of the Outer Rim, and even outwitted the notorious space pirate Captain Vex. Each experience had honed her skills, sharpened her mind, and steeled her resolve. This cell, with its stark walls and minimal comforts, was just another challenge to be overcome. She began to examine her surroundings meticulously. Every corner, every seam in the walls, every tiny detail was scrutinized. There had to be a way out, and she was determined to find it. Her persistence paid off when she discovered a small, almost imperceptible panel behind the cot. It was a start, a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak situation. With deft fingers, she began to work on the panel, using whatever tools she could improvise from her limited resources. It was a delicate operation, requiring both patience and precision. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she didn't falter. Each movement was calculated, each action deliberate. She was in her element, and nothing could distract her from her goal. Finally, with a soft click, the panel opened. Behind it lay a narrow passage, barely wide enough for her to squeeze through. It wasn't much, but it was a way out. Zorp took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. This was just the beginning. The real challenge was yet to come, but she was ready. She always was. With one last look at the cell that had tried to confine her, she stepped into the passage. The game was on, and Zorp was ready to play. Section 8, an ace up her sleeve. The beauty of being underestimated, Zorp mused, was the element of surprise. While her captors saw a captive, they failed to see her greatest asset, her mind. Years of rigorous training had honed her ingenuity and resourcefulness. Her wristwatch, disguised as a harmless piece of Earth tech, held a secret, a miniature sonic device capable of disrupting electronic systems. Yes, escape was not a matter of if, but when. Section 9. The escape gambit. Timing was everything. Zorp bided her time, waiting for the opportune moment to make her move. Late one night, when the facility was shrouded in darkness and the guards were likely dozing off to reruns of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Zorp made her move. The sonic device, activated with a barely audible hum, pulsed with a frequency that sent the security systems haywire. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and chaos reigned. Zorp slipped out of her cell and into the labyrinthine corridors of Area 52, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Section 10. To be continued. Her escape was just the beginning of a larger journey. Zorp still had to retrieve the elusive tea recipe and, more importantly, find a way to get off this planet without becoming a lab rat. As she ventured deeper into the heart of the facility, she realized this mission was far from over. Not by a long shot. It was about to get a whole lot more interesting and dangerous.